All right, welcome to the Ark of Our Safety podcast. My name is Brad Fields, and I am one of the captains of this ship. I have to need a lot of help. I have to go and get assistance. But ultimately, this ship runs off of prayer and scripture study. We got to be constantly in God's Word, and we got to be praying for miracles. And guess who's going to be the miracle? It's going to be you. It's going to be me. That's how we're going to make a difference in this country. No longer need we outsource our knowledge to someone else. We need to get back into the good books. We need to study it for ourselves, and we need to pray. That's what our founding fathers did. They studied, they fasted, they prayed. They relied upon God. These are things that we can absolutely do. They've been done before. Why not do them now? So this episode is entitled The Forgotten Context of the Book of Moses. Now, just looking at that statement, okay, strikes a lot of questions, and I'm not going to address a lot of them in this episode. I'm just going to raise the questions. But why was it that Moses is the one writing about the creation? Couldn't that have been done by Adam? And then couldn't he have passed that down to Enoch, and then passed that down to Noah, and then Abraham? Yeah, it could have happened that way. But for whatever reason, those books of those ancient prophets, the 4 prophets that preceded Moses, are nowhere to be found on the earth. Now, there is an answer. The restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ restores a lot of the book of Adam, Enoch, Noah, and we even have the book of Abraham. That is why I love the restoration of the gospel, because it gives you those books that have been kind of cut from the historical record, which is what the Book of Mormon tells us what happened to the Bible. That's why there's so much confusion. That's why people can't agree on scriptures, because not all the scriptures are there to be able to clearly set forth God's doctrines. That's why there's confusion today. So that's one of the reasons why I love the American scriptures and the Egyptian scriptures and the additional scriptures that we have today that give us clear views on what actually happened with the creation, the fall, and the atonement. All right, so this and much more will be in this series. Stay tuned.
Thomas Jefferson in 1809 referred to the Constitution as the ark of our safety. As it was in the days of Noah, so will it be in the days leading up to the return of the Messiah. The floods are coming. The Lord will soon shut the door. It is now time to board the ark, set sail, head towards the promised land, and never look back again.
All right, so the forgotten context of the book of Moses is super critical. The context of the scriptures gives us a lens through which to see the entire transaction taking place before our eyes. So before we even understand and appreciate Genesis, we have to first understand and appreciate Exodus, because that has the story of Moses and how the Lord preserved him. At that time, it was law. It was Egyptian law that if there was a Hebrew baby, that it was to be dead, that the mothers were supposed to not let them live. Okay, so that was law. That was the environment in which Moses grew up in. Moses was supposed to die according to the laws that Pharaoh had given to his people. It was absolutely against the law. Pharaoh was afraid that the Hebrews would outgrow the Egyptians and that they would build up an army and that one day they would threaten his power or his kingdom. And so Pharaoh passed this law out of fear to abort and to kill the Hebrew baby boys. So Jochebed, which was Moses' mother, disobeyed this edict, this mandate. She sacrificed her own life to try to get around this unyielding law. Now, she could only do it for 3 months. And after 3 months, it was getting to the point where if the baby was found, then it could potentially affect other Israelites, where Pharaoh might find out, and he would not only kill the babies, but he would start killing other people too. And so Jochebed prayed and fasted, and according to Josephus, and she was able to come up with this idea that I believe was revealed to her by God. Now, I don't know all the exact details, but she grabbed an ark of bulrushes, the kind of weaved basket of sorts, and she kind of engineered it. And it says that she daubed it with pitch and slime, put Moses in it, and then put it in the Nile River. Now, this was a dangerous move. This was like George Washington crossing the Delaware. I mean, this is desperation. There's nowhere else to turn. What is she to do? And so this little baby going down the Nile River, where there's crocodiles and all sorts of animals, going down, and then she comes across and goes into enemy territory. And the ark of bulrushes goes before Pharaoh's daughter, and she's bathing in the river, trying to cleanse herself. And she opens this basket, and she sees Moses. Now, according to law, she was to get rid of the baby. She was to get rid of it. She was, by law, supposed to kill it. But that's not what happened. That is not what happened at all. It says that as soon as she opened up the basket and saw the baby, that she had compassion on the baby. And because of that compassion, that baby Moses was preserved, and he was able to grow up and become the great deliverer, and delivered the children of Israel out of 400 years of bondage. And he was able to receive revelations from God himself that revealed how the earth was created, some of the information about Enoch and Noah, some of the children of Adam, and then Abraham. But it's amazing to me that all of that, I mean, the first 5 books of Moses are foundational to the entire Old Testament. The things that Moses was revealed to by the Lord were in force all the way up to the birth of Christ. Leviticus dictated the places and the times and the mannerisms and the ceremonies of Christ's birth, his being brought to the temple, the cleansing rituals, all of that stuff. And up to the death of Christ, the law of Moses was applicable. And the law of Moses was very, very difficult with the Jews who converted over and who now had to stop practicing it. That was hard, because what happened in the days of Moses was so formulating, was set in so much stone, literally. The 10 Commandments were set in stone. But it's so interesting, because in Jude 1:22 it says, "And some have compassion, making a difference." We get the whole Bible, the whole fate of the Bible rested upon the condition of what could be considered the enemy, or the daughter of an enemy. She was not of God's covenant people, but God used her. She had a godly attribute. The condition of her heart and her compassion is what allowed Moses to then live. And because of that mercy, we have the books of Genesis. Anyway, that when I learned that this morning, it just, I said I have to do a video on this. And so a lot of times while we as humans are taking sides and saying, this and this over here, God is often working on both sides. He's working among all people in all the earth. And I feel this very, very strongly today in a very polarized world where people are looking for evil. They're looking to find a way to hate somebody. Well, the entire Bible rested upon a woman that was not even part of the covenant. And because of her compassion and her mercy, God was able to use her to then preserve the baby, who then gave us 5 books of Moses. His life should have been eliminated. He should have been destroyed. But because of a marvelous mother who had faith in God and who trusted in these ark of bulrushes, in this protective basket, and trusted in the promises of God, we were able to have something better than we can imagine. The Old Testament is a very important document in our founding of this nation. If you look in Exodus chapter 18, that is where Article 4, Section 4 comes from, where it guarantees that our nation will be a republican form of government. Republican form of government is found in Exodus chapter 18, okay, where it talks about getting some help from Moses so that they can kind of divvy up the labor. Moses, before that time, was doing all the work by himself. And Jethro, his father-in-law, says, yeah, you're going to waste away your life. And he was able to give Moses some good counsel, and Moses accepted that counsel. And he was a changed man because of that. And so because of Jethro and his recommendations and Moses receiving those recommendations, implementing those recommendations, we have the Constitution. But Moses' very life was dependent upon, at one point, by an enemy. And because that enemy acted in compassion and love, we have the first 5 books of Moses, and we have a record of the history of the Jews and of the nation of Israel. I am so grateful that God uses all people of the earth to perform his great work. Now, Sam Adams, who was the father of the American Revolution, in 1772, he began to realize that, hey, we need to start uniting. We need to start formulating ideas. We need to have what was called the Committees of Correspondence. He gave a marvelous speech. I'll give the link below. But in 1772, he sent out a letter. Okay? And among other things, he said this: as Christians, okay, that's pretty important. Our rights may be best understood by reading and carefully studying the institutes of the great lawgiver. That was Moses. He was the great lawgiver and head of the Christian church, which are to be found clearly written and promulgated in the New Testament. Okay? So without that story of Pharaoh's daughter and the compassion that she had on Moses, we would not have the scriptures, and we would not have our Constitution that we so dearly love today. May we raise our minds and our hearts to the highest heavens. May we call upon angels, and may we call upon the Lord of hosts to help us in these times of need, is my prayer. Good night, America, and may God bless.
J. Reuben Clark once taught, when we begin to tamper with the Constitution, we begin to tamper with the law of Zion, which God himself set up. After the flood, the Lord revealed to Noah, and the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant, which I made unto thy father Enoch, that when men should keep all my commandments, Zion should again come on the earth, the city of Enoch, which I have caught up unto myself. Thank you for watching, and may you join us next time as we mutually pledge our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor in defending our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.